How about in the area, another area that just seems to keep coming up time and time again, and I think it's because of the economic impact. There's companies that have been through a combination of fines and penalties and
Right.
internal work that they've had to do as a consequence of this issue.
Right.
Numbers as high as $1 billion, with a B.
Yeah.
It's a huge number. And that's the whole area of anti-corruption and anti-bribery.
Right.
How do you think about all this as it applies to that area?
Well, I mean, when we think about, I think that the challenge is back to our discussion around the extended enterprise. I think so much more of that is sort of out of reach for a lot of organizations. While they may be, getting into those markets, there's a lot of M&A activity out there that companies, whether it's overseas buying U.S. companies or vice versa, we're getting into markets that we haven't gotten into before. We're getting more global, and so how do we address sort of both localization of that concept around Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and around the fact that you shouldn't be doing certain things and this is the values that we uphold versus the in-country manager who's grew up there and grew up in that culture and knows that hey, this is how we do business here.
Yeah.
This is how things get done, and sort of trying to strike the balance and understand that while that may have been the case all along, this is our value from an organizational standpoint. This is what we stand for, and that is not an appropriate action to take anymore, or that you cannot do that.
Right.
And so I think trying to strike that balance between localization of your policies, and really this comes back to taking that risk-based approach, is understanding what is the risk in that area. Is it a high risk because of the culture that has been brought up there?
Right.
Is this a high risk because it's a subcontractor that you've never worked with and you really don't understand? There's a whole sort of plethora of parameters that go around, that can contribute to the fact that this is a high-risk arena.
Right.
And if you understand that, then you can properly deploy your policy and your training and all your other strategies. This, I think, really influences the entire GRC program in the sense that, not only do you have to make sure that you're protecting the organization proactively, but that you may have to build in additional points of detection, for issues that might come up.
Right.
You may have to take different, remediation action against those problems that come up in order to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So,
Right.
You think about the design of your controls, and you think about, the design, around, segregation of duties within that country. So.
Right.
There's all those types of aspects that really need to be thought about, as you're thinking about the anti-bribery portion of it.